Numbers 19. We're just going to do one chapter, I think, today. But judge it how long it will take. But Numbers 19, and we're going to start from verse 1. I won't go a recap from last week because some of the stuff is not totally connected. But you're going to see, like you said, when you're dealing with the, Leviticus numbers, you're going to see things dealing with the laws and ordinances, statutes. So they're very important, even things that might not pertain to us today in the sense of carrying it out. The knowledge of it is still good to see what the Most High was trying to tell us, trying to teach us, right? Because everything he's doing, it does have meaning behind it. He don't just do things for all. So a lot of things that may seem simple or that's I don't get why he just did that, right? We might not understand, and that's fine. There's things he do that we don't understand or understand the importance of it, but I don't want you to just dismiss it um in the sense that it just wasn't important at all or it had no meaning behind it. All right, the Most High doing these things, he's thought it out. All right, so a lot of these things, even in its essence, a lot of things, as we should know now, points towards things as well. All right. So they're still learning, and this is why we still need to know these things, because even some of the great mysteries are found in these texts. All right. In the scripture, there are mysteries in it. Right. And Paul does a lot of things where he's grabbing certain things and bringing the spiritual, the depthness of them. Okay. So yes, what people call the Old Testament or the Torah, with the first five books, whatever, very important, always going to be relevant. Okay. This is where our knowledge is at. All right, but we're going to be at Numbers 19. All right. If you have anything, bring it out. I didn't really have things on this, so I'm going to try to grab some stuff, maybe, if it's applicable. Right. Numbers chapter 19. Brother, let's get verse 1 and 2.
And Yahweh spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, This is the ordinance of the law which Yahweh hath commanded, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke.
All right. So, yeah, I'm sorry. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So we had Numbers 19 and 1. And the first thing it always starts off, once again, we see what? Yahweh spake unto Moses and unto Aaron. All right. Why is that very important? Because it's always letting us know the direction of how things come about, right? Most High is giving it, and whether using an angel or whatever, right? Giving the message to what? Moses to Aaron, and they trickle it down to the people. All right. That's how the order goes. So we'll see the same direction kind of now, right? It'll go to the prophet or the preacher, whatever, that and it can trickle down and things of that nature. All right. Does that mean that somebody can't get something besides from the pastor? No. All right. But he was dealing with the laws and all those kind of things. These things could not be distorted. It had to be pure, purity from the source, all right, of the spirit. Why? Because this is how our faith has to be, this is how our faith has to be built upon or based upon. So you can't have that foundation faulty or messed up. Okay. And y'all, you played the game telephone, right? When y'all was younger, you start off with a message and you keep passing it down. Then by the time you get to the end, it's all messed up and distorted, right? So this is why Most High ain't putting all that. He ain't throwing it down to us and do all these things. These things coming from the source, bang, he's giving it to the people. All right. So everybody, whole nation getting the same message, right? So this is the ordinance of the law which Yahweh commanded. Okay. So speaking to the children of Israel, all right, because there's some things I don't think we got everything. I think we got the things that were necessary for us at that time, right? But I believe Moses specifically, I believe he had many deep mysteries, all right, and revelations that I believe the Most High probably didn't want revealed at that time. But I believe Moses and even some other prophets, they knew certain things. So there were certain times where there's certain messages where you get everything, and there's certain times where he can say, you know what, I don't want you to share this. And this is something we need to learn. Just because you're getting something doesn't you the next part is, right? If it's of God, first you need to see if it's of God. And if it's of God, Lord, do you want me to present this to X, Y, and Z? Because just because something's the truth doesn't mean he always wanted it presented. There's certain seasons and times, okay, where certain messages he went out. Okay, so make sure you're always being led by the Spirit when it comes to that. So it says that they bring thee a red heifer. All right, that's a cow. All right, without spot, wherein is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke. All right, so this thing has to be what? Without spot. This just sound familiar, right? Because we've seen other sacrifice that we give to the Lord. We see what? Without spot, without what? Blemish. Okay, and we can correlate that to what? When we look at our vessels and how the scriptures talk about us, right? We're talking about without spot and blemish dealing with us. It's dealing with what? That sin. Okay. So of course we had Yahweh Shai, right? Our Savior that didn't sin, right? Was blameless in every aspect. With us, we did sin, but we can get to no spot and blemish. How does that come about? Through the blood of Christ. Okay, so through our faith. So you will have to go through that process, that purging process. This is why we need Christ. All right. So we're going to look at this, right? The red heifer without spot or blemish, and upon which never came yoke. All right. So this heifer did not go through the burden of labor. Okay. The yoke is, think about the yoke, and then they kind of putting that weight on them and tilling and doing all the work for them. So this one could not have done any work. Okay. Anybody else got anything they want to grab from that? All right, let's keep going then.
And he shall give her unto Eleazar the priest, that he may bring her forth without the camp, and one shall slay her before his face. And Eleazar the priest shall take of her blood with his finger and sprinkle of her blood directly before the tabernacle of the congregation 7 times.
All right. So we're gonna look at this. And one shall slay before the face. So you're going to on the priest. He's going to take the blood with his finger and sprinkle it before the tabernacle. What is this symbolizing? Say my internet is unstable. Can y'all hear me? I'm sorry, but the guy, can you hear me? Said my internet
Yeah,
messed up.
come. I hear you.
You gave me okay. So it's talking about sprinkling this blood, right, from the red heifer before the tabernacle. Why is the Most High doing this? Doing this kind of ceremonial aspect with the blood. What do sprinkling the blood? What can that show? What can that display when it talks about the scriptures?
It's the covenant.
All right. So that can join you into the covenant. Okay. Also, what can it do?
Cleanse.
Cleansing. All right. So blood can join you in something, right? Because when we agreed to do the things, he put the blood and water, right, and join in that covenant. Okay. Also, we see that it's a cleanser. All right. Use the blood as a cleanser. Okay. And that's, remember, it says we was purified through what? Remember, through the blood of Yahushua. So it's showing you that kind of stuff. This is where the knowledge is at. This is teaching us certain things. All right. So that blood's a cleanser. Also, we have atonement coming up, right? When atonement come up, we'll probably deal with that, right? And you'll see that we did it. Sprinkle blood on some instruments and things of that nature. All right. So very, very important. So when you're looking at blood, don't think of, oh my God, guys, it's got blood everywhere. What is this dealing with? Right? It had meanings behind it. All right. Don't stop right at the carnal aspect, right? Or the natural aspect of blood, right? It's something deeper beyond that. Okay. So you might say, well, why don't you do it now? Let's go to Hebrews chapter 9 real quick. All right, let's go to Hebrews. Time's like we're not even going to go up, all right? But we're going to go to verse. In fact, let's go to 8. Let's go to 9 and verse 8.
The Holy Ghost, this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing.
All right. So this is dealing with the tabernacle, definitely that we were having, all right, during well, you can say the Moses time. Then of course Solomon has the physical structure up there, all right. But the Holy Ghost signifying the way into the holiest of all, so we should all know about that. I mention that all the time, right? When you had the temple, you had a place where the priest could go, all right. You had first of all, you had the outer courts. Then you actually go into the, if you go into the building, everybody can't go into the building. Certain priests that's doing things like with the menorah, like the candlesticks, right, lighting it up and all that kind of stuff, the shoe bread and things of that nature. That's in that building, right? Where you go into the temple. And then there's another spot behind that. Well, not, yeah, I guess you can say behind it, right? Further in, there's a curtain, and then that gets you into another part where the priest, regular priest, can't go to that spot. That was designed for the high priest to go in. That place is called the Holy of Holies. That's where the Ark of the Covenant is, where God said He would put His glory down and speak from it. That's that place. All right. So that place was sacred. That place was to show us that this is how the dynamic of the heavenlies is. All right. It's a spot. You got the heavens, spot. Everybody can't get there, right? Then you have the spot where what? The Holy of Holies, where what? The Father is. Okay. So he's just displaying the things above. So the Holy Ghost is signifying that the way of holies of all was not yet made manifest. That's why it was a curtain there. All right. When we had the temple, because it was showing when you put in a curtain, you're blocking something, right? You put a veil on, you're trying to block it so you don't see the actual thing. That's why that curtain was there. So we wouldn't see or understand what's behind it, the holy of all. Okay. It says, while the first tabernacle was yet standing, all right, while it was yet standing. Verse 9.
Which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect as pertaining to the conscience.
All right, so let's look at this. So 9, which was a figure for the time then present. So this was for that time, okay? But listen what he's talking about for that time, in which were offered both gifts. So he's talking about in that time, right, with the tabernacle and everything, we were offering gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect. All right. So the person that we were offering the gifts to, right? The priest, and they were doing the sacrifices, that didn't give them what? Perfection according to the conscience. All right. So according to the conscience, these things did not purify your conscience. Okay. So the animal sacrifice, it didn't purify the conscience. It wasn't, it wasn't designed to. Okay. But if you can understand what these things were doing, right, then it can push you forward to what? To Christ, with your understanding of what it was kind of leading us to. But what was it talking about? The gifts and the sacrifices. These things offered, all right, could not make the person that did the service perfect. All right. So it is specifying to the conscience. To the law, yes, you can do it right according to the law. Yes. But you see how he's not dealing with that. So, oh, you couldn't do it if you want to. No, you could do it exactly how the law told you, because that would be a setup. God tell you to do something that you can't do. All right. He's telling them something that they could do. So they can do the law. They can find the red heifer. They can find the lamb without blemish. They can get those things and do the service. Perfect. But that didn't make the mind, the conscience pure. Right? Somebody did something wrong. They can bring that lamb and everything according to how the law is saying it. But what? Their mind has not went through that purification. Their mind didn't get clean. Okay. So this is what he's kind of elaborating and talking about. Verse 10.
Which stood only in meats and drinks, in divers washings, and carnal ordinances imposed on them until the time of reformation.
So this stood on what? It's pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks and divers washings. All right. And carnal ordinances. All right. Carnal don't mean sin. Because you're going to have, I'm not going to call nobody names because I think we might have all felt this way, thought it this way, right? But we were ignorant to what Paul is really talking about. Because people like to see carnal and say make it sin ordinances. Now, why wouldn't that make sense, beloved? Because you will have to say that God gave you sin to do. And we know God ain't giving people sin to do. He's talking about the things he told them to do. The meat and drink offerings. There's laws that he told them to do that. That wasn't sin. The diverse washings. That wasn't sin. We're going to see some of that. And cardinal ordinances. So he ain't going to say the things that he told them to do and then throw a sin ordinance in there. That would make sense. Carnal can mean flesh. Fleshly doesn't mean sin, right? Just like, because you had to be a what? You had to be from the tribe of Levi to be a priest. That's a cardinal ordinance because it's dealing with the flesh. It wasn't the righteous people had to be priest. It was what? You had to be of this lineage, this seed line, this fleshly line. Okay? So this is what he's talking about. These things stood and what? To deal with meat offerings, drink offerings, diverse washing, and cardinal ordinances imposed. All right. This was imposed on them. How? Through the law, dealing with it. Imposed on them until. So they were going to keep these things, these meat offerings, drink offerings, cardinal ordinances, until the time of Reformation. All right. The time of reform. Okay. Now, when you look at the, I don't want to go too deep in it. All right. I'm going to be. All right. So this was happening. All right. And for something to be reformed, don't mean you have to destroy all the principles behind it. Okay. Yes, you don't have to do the drink offering, the meat offering in the way that they were doing. It's a reformed service now. Okay. So we understand, right? Because people like to, impose their doctrines into some of these things, right? But he's saying this was on them. This was imposed on them. On them, it was imposed until the time of Reformation, because these things we know was pointing to Christ. But it's being very specific on what these things we're dealing with. All right. Meats, drinks, washing, cardinal ordinances. Okay. But let's get all right, let's keep going. Let's go to let's do 11 and yeah, let's go read 11.
But Christ, being coming high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building.
All right, but now Christ is coming because now's the time of Reformation. So now we have the what? It didn't wipe out the high priest. It what? It reformed. It gave us what? A better high priest, right? Become Christ being come and high priest. So you see how they're trying to wipe everything out? Oh, you need the Old Testament. No, he's just saying no. Now we got Christ now. A high priest of good things of the past to come. So he's the high priest of things to come, futuristic. All right? By a greater and more perfect tabernacle. This is a good one, but this is greater. You're dealing with Christ. This is dealing with something greater. Okay? But we do that another time. Let's go verse 12.
Neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us.
All right. Not by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood. Because before, what did you need to have? The blood of goats and calves. All right. Very important. So they needed to have these things because that's what was imposed on them, like verse 10 says, imposed on them until the time of Reformation. So they had animals and animal sacrifice and things of that nature, all that, cardinal ordinances for that time. But now we come through a Reformation through Christ, right? And neither what? Now he's showing you that thing. You don't need blood and blood of the goats and calves. All right. But he put his own blood on there. That's why it's a better sacrifice. What's better than blood, sacrificing blood and goat? His son. Okay. Entered and once into the holy place, having what? Obtained eternal redemption for us. See, the other one couldn't do that. The other one couldn't purify the conscience because remember what he's talking about. As pertaining the conscience could make you perfect. But now we have a better high priest with a better sacrifice because he sacrifices blood, which was better than animals' blood. And now we obtain something that is greater. What is to come for us? What are we looking for? Eternal redemption. He gave us eternal redemption. That's why we don't need the blood of goats and calves. That was something you were doing every something. But now you got a perfect one where what? It can last forever. All right. It's like you got something that need the batteries, right? You need to charge it with the batteries, right? But no matter how good the battery is, you got to take it out and replace it. Take it out and replace it. But now Christ saying, listen, there's gonna be a time you ain't gonna have to have these batteries no more. It was the prophets was telling you, listen, this ain't gonna happen always. David would tell you, but the blood of bulls, you didn't require that. You didn't want that. That ain't the end game. But now Christ is coming, and now I'm just doing it. He's sundial. His energy from the sundial. And don't get all crazy thinking about sun worshiping, all right? But if you now are functioning behind sundial, don't it make sense that you don't need the batteries no more? That you shouldn't worry about that function no more? It's been reformed. You have a reformed battery system. Now you need some power behind this thing, but you don't have to do it according to that because that was for a time period until, not saying technology, right? But until the better system came into play, which came through Christ. Now you can throw away the batteries, right? Still need the remote, but you're throwing away the batteries. Now you have a better system to which you can rework. You can work the device, whatever the device was, right? But people want to throw the whole thing away. If you throw the whole law away, the whole device away, then what's the point of Christ being the better charger, right? No, you're taking that part out. That's what the temple and the killing all the goats and all that stuff. It was that part. You're removing the battery system, and now you're going to impose this system in it. Okay. Hopefully, I didn't lose nobody with that knowledge. All right. So now you're doing redemption for us. Let's read verse 13.
But if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctifieth to the purifying of the flesh.
With the blood of bulls and goats. And what was this, Brother Kai, after the blood of bulls and goats? The ashes of a heifer. See, people, this is what I'm saying. People can read this, and a lot of times you ask them when they try to wipe everything out, ask them why do you use that? What are you talking about? Bulls and goats, ashes of a heifer. What does the ashes of a heifer got to do with anything? You see how he had to be talking to somebody that knows the law? You ask the average church person, they're going to be like, I have no idea why he used ashes. Because they get the understanding of you got to kill some things, but why he's saying ashes of a heifer? Why did Paul use that? If you didn't read the Old Testament, you have no idea why he's using that. But we're going to figure, if you didn't, it's okay. We're going to figure it out tonight. All right? In the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctifying to the purifying of the flesh. So listen to what he's saying what the heifer would do. It's going to, you got to sprinkle it, and we're going to see what it is, right? Sprinkling on the unclean, sanctifying to the purifying of the what? Flesh. If that can purify, that system was put, remember the law was there, that can purify the flesh, it's saying now, verse 14, is comparing that system of purifying the flesh. Read verse 14, Brother Kai. I'm going to stop you in the middle of it.
How much more shall the blood of Christ?
Listen, he said, if the heifer thing that we about to go to, if that ordinance was purifying the flesh, how much more? This, he's saying the blood of Christ is greater than what? Than with the blood of the heifer. If that can clean the flesh, don't you think now the blood of Christ is more powerful, more potent than that blood? Read.
Who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God. Purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God.
That could do with what? That couldn't get the conscience. That wasn't when Moses was giving these things, the sacrifice and everything, the killing of the lamb, that couldn't purify the conscience. That's why it said the law was weak, because it couldn't purify the conscience. Not saying it was bad, it was saying he said it was weak. But now that we have Christ, we have a better, stronger system and a stronger sacrifice, which cannot just purify the flesh, but purifies the spirit of the what? Mind, which is the conscience. You see how he's talking about the same thing? People like to grab verse, want to do all this stuff. If you read it down and walk it down properly, Paul's dealing with the same thing, trying to let them know, y'all getting stuck on doing these things, and you're not getting Christ, which is stronger than that system that was placed upon us for a season. It was not an eternal system, but he's dealing with what? He's dealing with stuff very specific. He ain't throwing the Sabbath feast day. He didn't throw all that in there. He's talking about the meats, drinks, wash, all those kind of things. Okay? They had a purpose. They had a season. All right? But now he's saying Christ is on the scene. You got something greater and more powerful than that. Okay? All right, let's go back to Numbers. Sorry. All right. Anybody got anything? I'm sorry. Anybody have anything? Hopefully I didn't lose you too much. So remember, he said the red heifer, he said the sprinkling of the blood. Okay. So remember, Eleazar got what? One shall slay her before his face. They're killing him. They're killing the red heifer, they kill him. Eleazar the priest shall take of the blood of his finger and sprinkle the blood directly. See that? Sprinkle the blood directly before the tabernacle of the congregation 7 times. All right, let's see what else is going to happen. Verse 5.
And one shall burn the heifer in his sight, her skin and her flesh and her blood with her dung shall he burn. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet and cast it into the midst of the burning of the heifer.
All right. One shall burn the heifer in the sight, all right, because you got the blood from it. Her skin, her flesh, her blood with her dung shall be burnt. All right, you burn this whole thing. Can't be using it for any other purpose, things like that. So burn it up, and also burning can be also delivering it up. All right. And the priest shall take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet, all right, into the midst of the burning of the heifer. All right. Sorry. Let's read the next two. Let's read the next two. That's fine.
Then the priest shall wash his clothes and shall bathe his flesh in water, and afterward he shall come into the camp, and the priest shall be unclean until the evening. And he that burneth her shall wash his clothes in water, and bathe his flesh in water, and shall be unclean until the evening.
Sorry, I just real quick. All right. So the priest shall wash his clothes. All right. He ain't just gonna be all, dealing with all that stuff, got the blood, all stuff, and dragging that all in there. Right. That's not too sanitary. Okay. So the priest shall wash his clothes, and he shall bathe his flesh in the water, and afterwards he shall come into the camp. So that's a thing for us. When we're dealing with the Most High, we don't want to be all dirty and this and that, and right. We want to be presentable. Definitely we come for him and doing the service of him. Okay, so you clean yourself with the water, and then what? Afterwards, he shall come into the camp, and the priest shall be unclean until the even. All right. So even though he is doing a practice, right? He's doing. I'm saying practice. He is doing a law, right? A command from God. He's still what? He's still also, I won't say violated, but he still went against, not against, I'm trying to think of the wording to use it to not mess nobody up. Yeah, even though he's doing the service, he also became unclean according to the laws. All right. So this is why he's still going to be unclean. So even though he's doing the service, he's still considered unclean. So he'll be unclean only until the even. All right. So there's certain things where you have to look at what the violation was, and then it will kind of, the law and ordinances will kind of tell you how long and what's the process behind it. Okay. 8, he that burneth shall wash his clothes in the water. So the ones that burn them, you're going to wash your clothes, bathe in the flesh in the water and shall be unclean until the evening. We're going to see, the things about it and why it's unclean. Okay. All right, we can keep going. All right, we can keep going. So when we're doing the things, we did wash ourselves and cleanse ourselves. All right. And why I'm saying that is because there were some practices, and we even look at the heathens, they had a lot of practices with killing. They would kill and offer stuff up, right? So that's why you look at pagan movies, you'll see them killing stuff all the time. Some things will be similar to what we have, some things can be drastically different. Okay. Someone might be bloody and keep the blood on and think they get power from the blood and drinking the blood. They got all kinds of things, right? So you have to see, what our guidelines, what our laws was dealing with this. Okay. All right. Let's keep going, Brother Kai. I don't have nothing. See that in the chat.
And a man that is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer, and lay them up without the camp in a clean place. And they shall be kept for the congregation of the children of Israel for a water of separation. It is a purification for sin.
All right. So a man that is clean gathered the ash. So you see where it got to be different people because this is something sacred and he's trying to teach us something. All right. So the man that is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer. So they're gathering the ashes. All right. And lay them up without the camp in a clean place. So remember, we'll have people in the camp, right? Remember when you defile stuff, you'll be like outside the camp. You have leprosy, you have moose in the camp. All right. Still Israel, not saying you now, a senator, you can't be part of it. No, you just couldn't be in the camp because a lot of these things could be, just health codes, cleanliness codes, a lot of codes. So certain things you have to just be out the camp. Okay. So you're going to take this without the camp in a clean place. All right. So that's showing that there must be some unclean places outside the camp. And it shall be kept for the congregation. So these ashes are going to be kept for the congregation of Israel for a water of separation. All right, so we see something, a water of separation. It is a purification for sin. So this was used to purify sins. Okay, so once again, beloved, this is a system that he had in there. Okay, because people, and this is one of the things I get it, and I gotta wrestle even some of the understanding. But when people put it as, oh, they couldn't do things right and they messed up or they sinned, they did something, if it says we all sin, we sin. So it's like we're not perfect. It's like, no, that wasn't the end. That's where man is saying you're not perfect. You mess up and then you do the things where it tells you to do when you mess up. It puts you back in the good graces of God. That's what these things was trying to show us. The law is supposed to give us that knowledge. It was saying, well, you sin, that's it. The whole system that he has will be almost pointless. Why put this high priest? Why have these sacrifices for sin, all these things, just to show us that once we mess up once, that's it. Mess up, that's it. No. It's saying when you do mess up, I have a system in place where you can get back to where you were at. Get rectified, whatever you want, what words you want to use, redeemed. Okay? He's saying that system, that's why the tabernacle was there, to have that system of not just offering things, but also rectifying things. So when he removed the temple from us, and we don't have that temple that was illustrated in the law, right? He's telling us this wasn't supposed to be forever. This system wasn't supposed to be forever. But now we have Christ as that system. Okay, that's all he's doing. But let's keep going. All right. So it's for a purification for sin. Okay. Let's keep going. Oh, hold on. We got a hand. What you got, sis?
Kind of just to land back off what you're saying, just to show it, Hebrews 9.
Hmm.
And let's see here. The emphasis is on verse 14. But you can start at 11 if you like.
You want to walk it back down? Let's walk it back down. No, I'm not
Um,
going to walk it down, everyone, but you can read it, Brother God.
For Christ, being coming high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of bulls and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer sprinkling the unclean sanctified to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God?
Yeah. See, now this is what we talk about. We try to, there's some people like, oh, you're trying to oppose the Old Testament. It's like, listen, I want you to understand the New Testament. You see how hard it is if you didn't know the backstory of this? You didn't go back to the foundation of where these things built off of? You can do a lot of assumptions and really might not know the depth of what Paul is dealing with. Can't be talking to somebody that has no understanding of law. They'll probably be lost. Like, what is he talking about? Why is he talking about red heifer? Why is he talking about goats? What is he talking about? But when you have understanding of the laws, which Israel would have, because we're supposed to be brought up in that, right? Our schooling, right? Our schooling wasn't be what we dealing with now. You learn about American history, right? That's appropriate. Whatever nation you're in, they're gonna teach you about their history. Israel, we will learn about our history, our prophets, right? Our laws and our ways of doing. That's our culture. That's our identity. So we would understand these things. Okay. So it brings more understanding and more clarity, hopefully, when you understand, oh, because we knew about, the red heifer, that's very important to us. Man, that's how we get cleansed and everything. We need that. We need the red heifer to get, listen what I'm saying. We need that red heifer to get cleansed. Now, Paul's saying, yeah, that was okay. I understand the law was saying that, but guess what? There's something greater than that. Wouldn't your ears perk up and say, whoa, 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 something greater than the red heifer purifying? You said there's something greater than that? This is why he's such a master when he's breaking this stuff down. But a lot of us not understand the context, right? Understand the audience and all those things. Some of us are lost because we are true lost. We like the Gentiles in some of these things with the understanding. But our heritage, we should be able to follow along with what he's talking and bringing out. Okay, that's why we don't know law. That's why we got to go back and we got to get you that foundation, then get you to him. Because remember, he was taught by a doctor of the law. All right, Paul was taught by Gamaliel, so he knew the law. He knew this stuff, studied it. That's why he's saying some of these things, because people that knew the law will say, whoa, whoa, whoa. What you mean something greater than the red heifer? That purification, whoa. That's a big claim. Okay, let's go back to Numbers 19. Good verses, sis. Good verses. Okay.
All praise to the Most High.
All right. So, where we leave off at, brother? That was we had 10.
Verse 10. And he that gathereth the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening, and it shall be unto the children of Israel and unto the stranger that sojourneth among them for a statute forever.
All right, so he's gathering the red heifer, and he tell you every part. You're killing it, you're unclean. You get the blood, you're unclean. The one that grab that. So after you do that, he's saying you're unclean. You're not in sin, you're unclean. There's a difference, like I always talk about. Okay, what you do while you're unclean, that can put you in sin, but being unclean alone is not sin. Okay. All right. And he said, this is gonna and unto the strangers, so it shall be the children of Israel. All right, it shall be unto the children of Israel and unto the stranger that sojourneth among them. Okay, both for a statute forever. And you will see certain things, because I believe it was a couple months ago, like a year, maybe a year or two now. They found a red heifer and they was thinking that was a sign from God to, build a temple, do stuff. It was something going around. But this is what they're referring to. That's why they would say it's so important, because you're going to see. Okay. Let's keep going now. You don't have to worry about that. Don't beloved. Don't worry about no red heifer trying to do. No. All right. But let's keep going.
He that toucheth the dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. He shall purify himself with it on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he shall be clean. But if he purify not himself the third day, then the seventh day he shall not be clean.
All right. So this is where we understand uncleanness and cleanness laws, things of that nature. There was ways where you can become clean, all right, according to law. And this is one of those things I had to, battle. I think might talk to some of the brothers with this as well. Because there's some doctrines with, you're unclean, you can't show up here and everything. Remember, when you're going to deal with the uncleanness part, it's appropriate. When you talk about the cleanness part, you have to put something there because according to it, you had to have that water to be separated. I'm going to read again. He that touches a dead body of any man shall be unclean 7 days. So people are like, all right, when you touch a dead body, you're unclean 7 days. So I'm going to show y'all my insight on it, okay? My understanding. So you're going to be unclean 7 days. All right. Verse 12, he shall purify himself with it on the third day. So you got to, when you do get a dead body, he's saying you got to do something the third day. And on the seventh day, he shall be clean. But if he purified not himself the third day, then the seventh day he shall not be clean. So when I'm looking at that and saying, because people want to hold one part of it, but that's one part of that law with that. But the other part is you got to do something the third day to become clean. If not, you're staying unclean. Hope y'all can see what I'm talking about. So be like, oh, you can't go right. You just stay away from the congregation 7 days and then you come back in. That ain't what the law said. The law saying you got to do something the third day. And then you can be clean the seventh day. All right. So this is what I'm saying. There are certain things we do have to look at and dissect and make sure we're not posing something on somebody. Now, I'm not opposed to somebody want to be away from 7 days, but I'm saying how the law is set up, you had to do something that third day to be purified for the seventh. Okay. Now, I believe through the scriptures and why it's making that correlation with that red heifer, we see it's so important for this to get cleaned again. This is why we have Christ. Okay. Which is greater than the red heifer. All right. But we won't go into all that fully today, but I just want to give y'all some insight. All right. So, but purify not himself the third day, then the seventh day he shall not be clean. If you don't purify yourself with it, what's the it? All right. That's what you look at. What's the it? It's dealing with this. What's the context? What's going on? So you got to purify and do that thing on the third day for you to be clean on the seventh. If you don't, you won't be clean. So you can be 7 days away. That does not make you clean. All right. Verse 13.
Whosoever toucheth the dead body of any man that is dead, and purify not himself, defileth the tabernacle of Yahweh, and that soul shall be cut off from Israel, because the water of separation was not sprinkled upon him. He shall be unclean. His uncleanness is yet upon him.
So do y'all see the point? You need the red heifer to what? You need the ashes to mix with the what? That's what you're sprinkling on people that what? Because this is why they should be, because the water of separation was not sprinkled upon him. So if you don't have the water of separation to sprinkle upon them that third day, they can't be purified on the seventh. So with some of the brothers, so some of the things we're looking at, I'm looking like, I understand the message of you want to, they can be unclean for 7 days, but if you want to take it to how this law is, you're going to set them up for they can never be clean. Because it don't say just 7 days and now you're clean. They'll say, oh, stay away from congregation 7 days and you come back, you're good. That's not what that is saying. Okay? You have to do something the third day. Then you can be clean the seventh. All right? Now, I believe, if you deal with the Old Testament, you're just going to be done if you didn't get to Christ, right? But I believe the Reformation, Christ is that red heifer. That thing was pointing to Christ and dealing with that. Okay? He is how we get cleansed. All right? So we don't have to stay in that uncleanness state. Okay, so just so everybody do know. All right, but like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I don't know how to do it, but that's why it gets me away from just saying 7 days you're away and then now you're clean, because of what this is kind of illustrating. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So because the water separation, it should be unclean. His uncleanness is yet upon him. All right. So this was to defile what? What did verse 13 say? Whosoever touches the dead body of any man that is dead, and purifieth not himself, so you got to purify yourself, defileth the tabernacle of Yahweh. All right. So I want to see that. That's dealing with the what? Tabernacle you're defiling when you do this. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm sorry. Anybody have anything? Hopefully, I'm not losing y'all much. We good. We good. We good. All right. Let's keep going.
And it shall be a perpetual statute unto them, that he that sprinkleth the water of separation shall wash his clothes, and he that toucheth the water of separation shall be unclean until the even. And whatsoever the unclean person toucheth shall be unclean, and the soul that toucheth it shall be unclean until the even.
Wait, where are we at? Where you at, Brother Kai? You at 14?
Oh, my bad. I was skip.
Okay.
My bad.
I was looking. I was like, I might
Oh,
have messed
snap.
up.
Yeah, because I had messed up and lost my place.
Are you all
I had
right?
scrolled down. I'm on the computer.
All right.
Okay, verse 14. So, this is the law when a man dieth in a tent. All that come into the tent and all that is in the tent shall be unclean 7 days.
All right, so somebody died in the tent, and you go, people died. Oh, so and so died. You want to go and visit, right? And now he's saying when you do that, you go into that tent, that house. Now everybody's unclean for 7 days. All right, you become unclean 7 days. All right, so you don't even have to. This one's saying, don't illustrate that you even touch it. You going in that tent. Now you shall be unclean 7 days. Let's keep going.
And every open vessel which have no covering bound upon it is unclean.
So you have stuff open. I'm getting like the tops and stuff open, saying that stuff is now unclean, right? I try to look, and when I'm saying look, minimum search, to try to see if there's something that can be like when it's a dead body. There's things that like I don't know the proper wording to use it, pheromones, whatever that come about that can kind of get people sick of why he might do this. I'm just trying to get understanding. Maybe there's stuff with it because some people look at that. Um, you'll see certain things. Some people say more like the contact, like you're touching them and stuff like that. Disease or blood kind of got in your pores from them or something that they had certain things could possibly do it. I'm not 1,000% sure of like airborne things. But I mean, if anybody knows, you could definitely bring it out. I'm just not sure. Okay. Um, but it's just one of my curiosity things to see, because the most time we see certain things, he put things in place where people find out later, like, oh, later on, oh, you don't know when somebody died, there's things that goes out and this can be contained, right? To do his law, some things he's already preventing us from, even though we might have not had the knowledge of it. So that was one of the things I was trying to look into a little bit. Okay. But nonetheless, we can keep going. Verse 16.
And whosoever toucheth one that is slain with a sword in the open fields, or a dead body, or a bone of a man, or a grave, shall be unclean 7 days.
All right. So he's giving you all the ways you being clean, I mean unclean. All right. So he's breaking it down, going into specifics. All right. So we are certain of what it is. All right. So you die with the sword, all right, in an open field. All right, you're getting slain. That can make you dead. All right. They're using sword there, but as you weapons get more advanced, it'll fall into anything. If it was a bow or whatever. Okay. Or a dead body or the bone of a man, you touch the bone of it, all right. Or a grave shall be unclean 7 days, all right. And once again, unclean is you can't be going to that temple, that tabernacle, to offer up those offerings or doing sacrifice, right? You're unclean to go to tabernacle because you get defiled. All right, that's why. And that's why I understand why people saying, the 7 days you stay away from the church, because we do supposed to come together and it's like we're offering things of that nature. So I'm not downplaying or negating that, all right, but just showing you the method behind it. All right, let's keep going.
And for an unclean person, they shall take of the ashes of the burnt heifer of purification for sin, and running water shall be put thereto in a vessel. And a
Mm-hmm.
clean person shall take hyssop and dip it in the water and sprinkle it upon the tent and upon all the vessels and upon the persons that were there and upon him that touched a bone or one slain or one dead or a grave.
So you're talking about you do this now, you got the water, right? And the heifer, right? You got the acid and everything. They mix, they're in this vessel. But now you got to do what? A clean person, not a foul person, a clean person now have to go and what? Get the hyssop. Now I tell you, what you got to do. And you got to sprinkle it on them. All right. Once again, showing that purification. So you're sprinkling it, that purification. Okay. So once again, showing us some of the things that we were having that law. But as Paul was saying, what? It wasn't purifying the conscience. All right. It was getting to the flesh part that we're dealing with. All right. But this alone didn't purify the conscience because you're doing it. All right. But you still had to follow through with this. All right. Because if you didn't, now your conscience is going to be defiled because what? You're being disobedient to what God instructed you to do. Okay. Let's keep going, Brother Kai.
And the clean person shall sprinkle upon the unclean on the third day, and on the seventh day, and on the seventh day he shall purify himself, and wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and shall be unclean at even, and shall be clean at even. So lock it.
All right. So once again, kind of reiterating the same thing. Clean person going to do it, and he's going to do it what? Sprinkle upon the clean on the what? Third day, and on the seventh day. All right. So you have to do this. This is why I say the day part to get clean. Everybody worry about the unclean part, but to get clean, you did the third day, and he said the seventh, and the seventh at even, then you will be clean. Okay. So now you can start new and fresh. Okay. We keep going, brother.
But the man that shall be unclean, but the man that shall be unclean and shall not purify himself, that soul shall be cut off from among the congregation, because he hath defiled the sanctuary of Yahweh. The water of separation have not been sprinkled upon him. He is unclean.
All right. So the man that shall be unclean and shall not purify himself, if he does not do this, he's going to be cut off from among the congregation. So you're going to be done. This is very serious. He's not making light of this. Saying if you don't do this, you don't go through this process, you're going to be cut off from Israel. All right. And that's like a death sentence, death warrant. Okay. So because why is he going to cut him off? Because he had defiled the sanctuary of the Lord. Because now when you were unclean, you were supposed to do certain things, right? To get clean, and you said, no, I'm not going to do it. And now you defiled the sanctuary. You didn't just endanger yourself. You what? You try to mess other people up. And once again, that goes back to the law, right? The two great commandments. Love the Lord thy God all thy heart, and then what? Love your neighbors yourself. You're going to defile the sanctuary, which what? We all going for offerings, stuff like that. You're going to try to defile that. That's not loving your neighbors yourself. Okay. So you see how it still falls into it. What you got, sis?
That's a great example of, the cleansing power of the blood of Yahweh Shai, of Christ. Even because we may become foul occasionally, daily. That's why he said, bear your cross daily and repent from your sins. Even our thoughts and our actions, and that's a daily thing. So this is a great representation of that. But I yield.
No, all praises. And this is why we understand, like, it's so powerful. You understand um the beauty of Christ. We don't understand the mercy that's put upon us by having Christ alone. All right. Because it didn't read if the person knew it or not, right? Somebody could benefit, they didn't even understand that it was a dead body there and be defiled and not even know it, right?
Kind, and he made it. They made it available for anybody, not just the Levites, to cleanse. So yeah, that's the beauty of it. That's the yeah.
So thank the Most High. All right. Once again, trying to show us something, trying to teach us something, beloved. Okay. We at 21, brother Kai.
20.
20.
No, 21. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so the water separation have not been sprinkled upon him. He is unclean. So you see, he's saying if you don't do this, oh, you unclean. I don't want to hear that. Oh, but I got God in my heart. Well, no, nope. He said you unclean because you didn't follow through with what I told you to do. All right. What keeps you clean is obedience, beloved. That's always been it. Obedience is what did it. It was never the red heifer that was going to force you to be clean. No, it was the obedience in what he was saying to do with this that made you clean. All right. All right. Last two verses. Finish it up.
And it shall be a perpetual statute unto them that he that sprinkleth the water of separation shall wash his clothes, and he that toucheth the water of separation shall be unclean until even. And whatsoever the unclean person toucheth shall be unclean, and the soul that toucheth it shall be unclean until even.
All right. So this is going to be continuous statute. All right. Touching the water separation shall be unclean until the even. All right. So if you did it, touch it, the water of separation, you're going to be unclean to the even. But listen to the next part. And whatsoever the unclean person toucheth shall be unclean. All right. So the unclean person ain't supposed to be touching everything. That's why he's saying some of the stuff you got to be outside the camp. Because you're going to defile the whole camp. You touching stuff and doing all this stuff. Okay. And that soul that toucheth it shall be unclean until even. All right. So it wasn't just, and this is what I'm saying with the laws, their intended was for a kind of a nation, a group, right? Because when we're in this captivity, you only have control of what, so, you only have control of so much, right? Because this is going to be pertaining to how other people do things, right? Now, somebody being unclean, now they touch me, they can follow me. You see how I can go, right? So this is why we have to understand it. And this is why I'm saying the knowledge of God, he already put things in place. So with Christ, I believe it don't take Christ 3 days. I believe he can do it instantly. Because I'm telling you, if you want to go with this law, and I'm not opposed to the unclean aspect, whatever, but you riding buses, you doing all this, like, you have to know everybody that's on there. And if they was on there, if it's women, are they on their time of the month? If it's men, were there women on time of the month? They touched it. You see how it's going to be a lot. Okay. So we do what we can do, but we understand that Christ cleansed us. All right. That blood is cleansed. We don't need the effort. That was part of that old, I won't even say old school to it all, but that was for that time until the time of Reformation. Now we transformed, right, or transcended from the red heifer to what? Christ. Okay. This is why the red heifer had to be very specific, right? Without blemish, right? What was let me get the other one so I don't mess it up. Without spot and blemish. Oof, well, I went blank on that. All right. So, like you said, without a heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish. All right, because this is pointing and dealing with Christ. Okay. Let's go to one more spot. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1. We can end it there unless somebody has something. All right. 1 Peter chapter 1, and we're going to do verse 2. 1 Peter chapter 1, and read verse 2 of God.
Elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father, through the sanctification of the Spirit, unto the obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Yahushua HaMashiach, grace unto you and peace be multiplied.
All right. So according to the elect foreknowledge, right? I'm sorry, elect according to the foreknowledge of God. All right. So God already had this thing in play. All right. So he's telling you this was something, it's foreknowledge, this is already understanding through what? Through the sanctification of the Spirit. So he already knew we're going to be sanctified through the Spirit. That's why he got it sent unto obedience. All right. Sanctification of the Spirit to get to obedience and sprinkling of the blood of Christ. All right. So this is already a foreknowledge. If you can look at the red heifer and a lot of these things, is just a foreshadow of the true thing. Okay. So once again, just wanted to give another reference and why we see like that sprinkling of the blood. We see the sacrifice dealing with a lot of the sprinkling of the blood. All right. For that purification, that sanctification, things of that nature. All right. Did anybody have anything before we end it? All right. That will conclude Numbers chapter 19. Hopefully we got something from it. All right. Those that's watching on YouTube, we say Ayana Habathum, which means love you all, and shalom or shalom or shalom.